been provided by the UNWTO. It's on their data dashboard, and of course, it's on international tourism and COVID-19. So it says here that there's a projected loss of about 850 million to 1.1 billion international tourists. Also a loss of 910 billion US dollars to about 1.2 trillion US dollars in export revenues from tourism. 100 to 120 million jobs are also at risk. And so let's cross over to her. She joins us via Zoom. Let's find out more about what exactly the data says. Good morning, Zoritsa.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us to share with you some important insights.
Definitely.
As you all know, the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, 3 days ago released a major piece of work for tourism, the COVID-19 and tourism transformation policy brief. It is the first time in the history of the United Nations that tourism had such a prominent visibility and acknowledgement for support. And I think it really shows the commitment of the World Tourism Organization, which has led the work with 12 other UN entities, how to really support recovery. We all know tourism is a lifetime for millions of people and the third largest export category after fuel and chemicals. But we know as well that the sector has been the hardest hit by the pandemic. And the restrictions on travel with sudden fall in demand is placing millions of jobs and livelihoods and businesses at risk. So the report, what it tries to do is first to really analyze the impact, not only on the economies, but on the societies and on the environment. And I think this is really the dimension that needs to be taken account, which has guided as well to shape really recommendations, which can be used by all the countries and in Africa in particular.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to repeat the numbers you just said, because this is a very important source of understanding what we should be doing, because the magnitude of the impact is big. But we as well predict that the loss of global GDP, the impact of the loss in tourism is going to impact by 1.5 to 2.8% of global GDP. Now, for Africa, we know that the continent is hosting 5% of global tourism in 2019,
2019,
when it comes to global impact.
So 5%.
But when it comes to the particular case of the fall in tourism, we have observed 47% fall in tourism arrivals. And the sector represents 9% of total exports, but it's totally shrinking because the demand collapse and the sky shut up has been really impacting severely the countries. So what is really today at stake is to try to first support livelihoods, because we know that 60% of workers in the tourism sector are in the informal sector. So those ones are not registered, they are not acknowledged as employees, and therefore these are the people as well that needs the most, besides the tourism jobs and enterprises. What we have observed is a quite interesting collaboration with the multilateral system, being it in the United Nations, because the presence of UN country teams can really support recovery. And we have been working with many, many countries to do that at the country level, but as well international finance institutions. And we have seen that the tourism ministers, and in Africa in particular, because the debt levels are very high, have been very much supported with us on trying to secure financial packages and fiscal policies to sustain the business going.
I see.
So we have a quite diverse panorama of importance of tourism in the countries, but we know as well that it is one of the key providers of job in many least developing countries.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the urgency call and the call for action for the UN Secretary General, of course, joined by the Secretary General of the United Nations World Tourism Organization, Mr. Pourlikashvili, is really a roadmap to build back better. So the first aspect that needs to be taken into account.
Even before you go into that, hold on, Zoritsa. Zoritsa, can you hear me?
Economic impact on livelihoods. This is
Zoritsa, can you hear me?
But we need not to. Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry to interrupt, but what I quickly wanted to ask, even before we go into those 5 key areas that were outlined by the UNWTO,
Yes.
now the UN General Secretary said that tourism could be used as a platform for overcoming the effects. He said that tourism can promote solidarity and trust, crucial ingredients in advancing the global cooperation that is so urgently needed at this time. We all have been told the reason why tourism, unfortunately, has been badly affected, and it's also because of the gathering of people at one place at one particular time. Of course, traveling as well has been impacted. And so we know that COVID-19 and tourism are at two opposite ends, because we cannot have people gathering as much as possible or traveling all around the country for now, because the virus hates crowds.
Yes.
So how are we then going to use tourism as a means to, promote the economy or build the economy again if coronavirus is not completely over yet?
I think that, as said in the 5 priorities which you just listed, in managing the crisis and mitigating the socioeconomic impact, we need to really look at health first. People and health. This is really essential, because nothing is going to happen without that. So protocols need to be put in place, being it from the source market departure to the arrival in the country and in the country.
Okay.
I think this is really essential to rebuild trust and confidence. That is on the operational level. Of course, this needs to be sustained by support to the companies to survive, because of course we know that operations cannot be as usual. We have seen a shrink in capacity of having 1/3 of customers instead of having 100% of business running. So this has to be sustained, and this is one of the most difficult parts. But building confidence for workers, building confidence for tourists to come, because we have seen as soon as skies open and airlines started to fly, everybody was on a plane. Still, we have seen that the pandemic is not easy to control. So that aspect is essential. We have seen as well that digitalization is tremendously helping, being it for controlling health protocols, but as well for reaching out to markets.
Okay.
And the demand, and maybe this is where I see a great opportunity for Africa, is that the demand has shifted towards places which are less crowded, which are less mass tourism. And I think that the endowment and the offer that the tourism can offer in Africa would be really a great opportunity. We have seen many destinations really not doing so bad since flights have resumed, but still many countries are still really lagging behind. So boosting competitiveness and building resilience is really key. Innovation and digitalization of the entire tourism ecosystem is essential.
Okay.
We need as well to sustain all the value chain, food production, supplies that are linked to the tourism value chain, because these industries and opportunities have as well collapsed for the people. And of course, sustainability and inclusive growth. We know that there is an increase of water use, there is an increase of waste generation because of plastics, because of masks, because of protocols. So that on the one hand is difficult to handle, but maybe it as well provides, I can say, creative options for circularity and circular economy.
Yeah.
And yes, you said coordination and partnerships to transform the sector is essential.
I see.
So we really stand ready to further support, and we have been doing that since the very beginning of the crisis.
Okay.
We have never worked so hard. I think we all work 15 hours a day.
I can imagine how much work has gone into this.
In our department, we cover from Fiji to Chile,
Yeah.
and starting 7 in the morning and ending at 21. I mean, never stops.
Okay.
So
but if that's the
stand
case,
ready, and we are present, I can
all
say,
right.
to support.
If that's the case, what's your projection in terms of how long it will take countries who adhere to some of these 5 priority areas, in recovering and, of course, helping their economy to recover? How long will it take for them to help their tourism, to boost their tourism back to where it used to be?
This is a very difficult question, because I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
This is not going to depend on us. This is going to depend on how we are going to be fast to find a vaccine, to find the right medicines and contain. and how much prepared and committed are all the key actors and stakeholders, including policymakers at the country level, to really introduce, I can say, safety protocols, which are for the moment mitigating the impact while trying to control the virus propenssion. But on the same time, we today are standing 20 years behind where we were in tourism, meaning the numbers of today, of the year 2020, is equivalent to the year 2000.
Wow.
Number of international tourist arrivals.
Wow.
Now, this is not applicable for all countries, because in some countries, there has been the opportunity in increasing and stimulating domestic tourism, and as well regional connections and regional tourism. So in some countries it's feasible, in some it's not possible because the purchasing power does not allow for it.
Will tourism ever come back to normal? Looking at the fact that we have been plunged back 20 years, do you think it would ever come back to normal, or are we in a new era of tourism?
We are in a new era of tourism. We are going to come back to normal because tourism is become part of our DNA. Everybody wants to travel. So we are not going to stop traveling, but we might travel differently. I think we have been all adapting to a new lifestyles since we had lockdowns and restriction on celebration, meeting people, going to places. We might be much more responsible as well, I think.
I see. That's tough. But anyway, before we even wrap up on this conversation, a little advice to countries, and of course here Ghana as well. We're getting ready to open our borders to allow travel to take place. It's been months since the borders were closed. What advice would you have for our government as they prepare?
What we need to do is really invest in people, trust people, because the people are going to be the key. If the people are being part of the solution in implementing the right protocols and being abreast of what needs to be done, this is going to be a key for recovery.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Zoritsa Urosevic, for speaking to us this morning all the way from Geneva. She's the Director of Institutional Relations and the